Boop. Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday, June 9th, 2020, and the daily Bible readings for today are Psalm 29, Job 39, 13 through 25, and 1 Corinthians 12, 4 through 13. I want to talk about social distancing and the impact that it's had on pretty important life of the church, part of the church's life, I should say. And that's the loss of the sacrament. Now, I don't mean that the sacrament has gone away and that we'll never recover it. We don't have it again. But living in the time of social distancing has really made it a challenge for the church, especially a church like in our tradition, the United Methodist Church, which sees the Lord's Supper as a sacrament and a means of grace and a thing that we should do anytime, as John Wesley would say, avail ourselves of it anytime we can. The question becomes, how do you share the elements when you have to maintain social distancing? How do you share the cup with someone? How do you share the bread with somebody when you have to stay 6 feet apart at the same time? But that's not even probably as difficult as how do you do that when they're not in the same room with you, right? It's and there's been a lot of conversation about that. So how do you share the same cup? How do you do that? And why, so maybe you're sitting at home and you're thinking, well, why is that even important? Well, it's a really big part of who we are. And that brings us to the text for today, because Paul is reminding the Corinthians that what ties them together is this same spirit that we drink, this same cup from which we drink. That is the thing that identifies us as the church and draws us together in this time that we live in, without the presence of Jesus Christ, but with the Spirit of God that has been given to us. That's what the season of Pentecost is all about. And so, we're all made to drink of one Spirit. And Paul points out to the Corinthians here in verses 4 through 11 that it's this one Spirit that has formed us into the one body that we call the body of Christ, that we call the church. It's this idea of there's one baptism, that there's one cup, and that even though we in the body of Christ have many gifts that we've been given, and they're all different, and they're manifested uniquely in the believers, nevertheless they're all activated by that same Spirit, as the Spirit chooses to activate them in us. And that brings me to another concern of the age that we're living in. And it's probably not just this age. It's probably been a perennial problem throughout the life of the church. But it seems that we're all too busy, I think, and I fear, playing games with the cup in order to honor the one Spirit from which we all drink. It's like we're all at a party and we're playing one big drinking game, if you want to look at it that way. We're all walking around with our cups, and nobody can see into each other's cups, and we're all trying to hide what's in our cups from everybody else. And and some people are trying to pretend like what's in their cup is more special than what's in anybody else's cup. And that doesn't do a lot to maintain that oneness that we're supposed to have as the body of Christ, that we're supposed to all be drinking from the one cup. And literally in some traditions, that when they celebrate the Lord's Supper and they celebrate the Eucharist, they actually use one cup and everyone drinks from it. And that's, however you feel about that there's important symbolism to that. Probably can't recommend that for the time being. Wouldn't have done it in cold and flu season anyway, but we now have gone, I fear, not only are we losing the ability to even access the cup, but I think that is exacerbated by this kind of drinking game that everybody seems to be playing. But like I said, that's not a new thing. It's not just us into this world of the church today, because Paul goes on in this letter to the Corinthians to talk about how everybody's, we're, to use the phrase again, we're all in this together, that we are all part of the same body, that even though all the parts are different, they're still tied together by this one Spirit. Just like he says in verses 4 through 11, all the gifts are manifested because of this one Spirit and given to everybody as the Spirit decides is useful. So maybe the time is ripe for us to decide, are we going to keep playing drinking games, or are we really going to focus on the one cup and really focus on that one Spirit that ties us all together as believers, as the body of Christ? So that's the daily Bible reading for today, Tuesday, June 9th, 2020. I'll be back tomorrow. You go out and have yourself a good afternoon and a good evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Boop.